Today we are talking about the First-Time Homebuyers Incentive Program. This was created to help first-time homebuyers across Ontario and Canada get into the market. Hi guys, my name is Morgan Little. I'm a realtor here in the Greater Toronto Area. If at any time you have any questions about the First-Time Homebuyer Incentive Program or about your real estate journey in general, don't hesitate to reach out. Book a one-on-one by clicking my Calendly link in the description below. All right, let's talk about it. So we're going to cover the 4 incentives available to first-time homebuyers in Ontario. First being the land transfer tax rebate. When you buy a home in Ontario, you are charged a land transfer tax upon closing. And if you're lucky enough to live in Toronto, you get charged a second land transfer tax by the city. So because of this, the rebate is broken up into 2 different rebates. Number 1, the Ontario land transfer tax rebate is to a maximum of $4,000. And then the Toronto land transfer tax rebate is to a maximum of $4,475. Now, calculating the amount of land transfer tax is a bit of a challenge because it's a sliding scale and it basically goes half of a percentage on the amount of $55,000 up to $255,000, and then a percentage on the amount of $250,000 up to $500,000, and so on and so forth. Now, if you're a math whiz, go for it, but you're probably better off just using a land transfer tax calculator. I'll leave a link to one in the description. Now, if you're buying a home for more than $400,000, then you'll pretty much be getting the full Ontario land transfer tax rebate as well as the full Toronto land transfer tax rebate. For example, if you bought a house in Toronto for, say, $750,000, your Ontario plus your Toronto land transfer taxes would equal the amount of $22,950. Once you subtract both those rebates, equaling $8,475, that would leave you with an amount of $14,475 in land transfer tax, which sounds like a lot, but getting that over $8,000 rebate isn't so bad. Side note, because I often get this question the rebate is taken off at closing. It's not something you have to pay up front and then apply and wait to get reimbursed. It comes off the total at closing. Number 2 is Canada's First-Time Homebuyer Incentive Program. The Canadian government will loan you 5% interest-free for your down payment on your first home. The criteria for it is this. For resale homes, the buyer puts down a minimum down payment, or rather it has to be under 20%, so minimum being 5%, and then the government will then loan them an extra 5% for the down payment. To be eligible, your household income cannot exceed $120,000. The loan you take out to purchase the home has to be less than 4 times your income, and like I said, you must be putting less than 20% down as a down payment. Now, this may sound great, but if you're living in Toronto, you're probably thinking, this isn't going to help me since your maximum purchase based on those numbers would be $480,000, and you're not going to get much for $480,000 in Toronto. Well, in the spring of 2021, they came out with version 2.0, which applies to Toronto, Vancouver, and Victoria only. With this, it allows you to purchase a home if your household income is $150,000 or less, and the loan you're taking out is a maximum of 4.5 times your household income, and still requires the minimum down payment or a down payment of less than 20%. So based on those numbers, the max you can purchase in Toronto, Victoria, or Vancouver would be $675,000. So gives you a little bit more room to work with. Again, you're not getting a whole lot for that price in any of those cities, but there's possibility there. So this all sounds well and good, except there's one little catch, being that you are essentially making the government a money partner in your property and giving them a 5% equity stake in your home. So when you sell, they get that 5% back of the total purchase price. Example, that same $750,000 home that the government loaned you 5% on, equaling $37,500, if that home goes up to $850,000, say, now you owe the government 5% of that $850,000, which equals $42,500. So yes, the loan was technically interest-free, but like I said, it gave them an equity stake in your property. You still owe 5% of whatever the house is worth once you sell it. It's definitely something you want to keep in mind. And also, if you plan to do any major renovations to increase the value of your home, you may want to consider paying off that government loan first so you avoid having to pay them back all the extra equity that you create when renovating. Now, you may not have the money to renovate right away, especially if you're qualifying for this program, but it's just something I want to make you aware of. Also, one thing to note, if you're buying new construction, the loan would be an extra 10%. And for my investors, please note that if you're buying it as an income or an investment property and you don't plan to live in it, this doesn't apply. But it does not void your opportunity to use the first-time home buyer incentive program when you do buy your home, even if you bought investment properties. Just thought I'd note since I work with a lot of investors. Number 3 is the RRSP first-time home buyer plan. This allows you to withdraw up to $35,000 from your RRSP tax-free to go towards your down payment. Additionally, if you're married or common law, you can each use this $35,000 equaling $70,000 to go towards your home if you're buying together. The requirement for this is that you start repaying the funds back to your RRSP within 2 years, but you do have 15 years to pay it back in full. The only other thing to note is that the money needs to be in your RRSP for a minimum of 90 days before being withdrawn. And the fourth incentive is the first-time homebuyer tax credit. If you're a first-time homebuyer, you can write up to $5,000 in expenses off incurred when buying your first home. This ends up as a $750 credit when tax time comes around. Talk to your accountant about this one to make sure you're doing everything properly in order to get the rebate. And those are the 4 incentives available to first-time home buyers in Ontario. If you have any questions about these, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to address it. And if at any time you want to discuss your real estate journey, feel free to book a one-on-one with me by clicking my Calendly link in the description below. I look forward to chatting. Till then, this is Morgan Little, encouraging you to get just a little bit better each and every day. Be well.